So I look back over all my past videos and it's been about 1.5 to 2 years since I've done a what's in my bag. So in today's video we're going to go through all of my gear, my lenses, cameras, audio equipment, lighting equipment, everything I use as a full-time wedding photographer slash videographer, and show you guys what I've got. I'm going to split this video into sections so you can go through on a timestamps and skip between different parts. Hopefully it's not going to drag on too long. And another couple of quick notes. First, I'm going to go through and do a re-review on all of my lenses because I've had them for quite a while now. You know, this 55mm, for example, I've had for since like 2017. So my opinions have changed a little bit. I've bought and sold gear and gone back to gear, and the cameras have obviously changed. And secondly, my new presets are out. So it's been a while. It's been about 2 years since I released my last presets, and they've changed over the season. So now the new preset pack is finally ready. Everybody that's already bought my presets, you're going to get a special link with a bit extra of a discount, and everybody else, check them out in the link in the description below. So firing off straight away with camera gear, the only things that aren't on this table is my second A7IV, which is filming me here. That has the Tamron 17 to 28mm 2.8 lens on it. And this camera over here is an A6600 Sony with my 24mm G Master on it. So I'll give you a quick shot of those. But otherwise, all my cameras and lenses, other than my film cameras, are on this table now. As you can see, I've got two A7 Mark IVs. This is my second one here, and I'm just loving these cameras. These are my workhorses. I have two of them, obviously. And I'm also running the same Mickey grips that I've had since I had the A9s. So this is the same A9 II grip that I've had. It fits all of the new generation bodies. So it has a tripod mount on the bottom, which is really, really handy when doing photo and video at the same time. And other than that, the cameras are standard. I just run the Peak Design clips on one of them when I'm just using a solo camera with my leather strap. And on this body at the moment, I have the Tamron 28-75 G2, the newest version. I use this mostly for like ceremony and sometimes reception, and I don't always use it for every wedding, but if I want an extra video camera on a tripod, I'll just switch to one camera for the ceremony and chuck the 28-75 on it. Otherwise, nowadays for the ceremony, I'm usually using 35-85. That's regardless of what I've been on through the day, like in the morning for getting ready shot. Yeah, for this one, I have the Sony 35mm 1.4 G Master. This is one of my all my lenses are my workhorses. I don't really keep anything that I'm not using. I just don't see the point. I'm not like a gear collector. Really love this lens. It's just, yeah, all round really great option if you want a 35mm, other than the price. The 35mm 1.8 is also a really great lens for a fraction of the price. Just doesn't have quite the magic that this one does. So moving on to the 55mm 1.8, I think this is the first lens I bought when I switched to Sony from Nikon. So I bought an A7R Mark II and the 55mm, and that was my intro into Sony, and that's what made me switch essentially. And yeah, I've had this lens ever since. I've actually sold it once before. I traded in on the 50mm 1.4 Zeiss, the big one, and I ended up not really liking it. It was a little bit better than this lens. It looked a little bit better, but for the size and, you know, it was a little bit slower than this one. I just didn't think it was worth it, you know, so I traded it back and bought my old lens back. And yeah, I've had this one ever since and still never had a problem with it. The next lens I have is the Sigma 35mm 1.4. This is the DGDN, the latest version, I believe. And yeah, it's really good. I had the G Master 85 before that, and that was a fantastic lens, but this one is just sharper and it's faster. Really the only complaint I have with the Sigma is it's just not the same color as the G Master lenses, so it's noticeably warmer glass. And that can be a little bit of a pain when I'm using like the 35 G Master and the 85mm side by side at a wedding ceremony. When I'm editing, I can't go through and like sync the white balance, so that's a little bit frustrating. And for that reason, I've been thinking about going back to the G Master, even though that's quite old now and it's just not quite as good as this one. It just makes the job a little bit easier, and the difference in quality, only you're going to notice, really. Next one, a little bit unique. I do use this for weddings sometimes, so when I'm just rolling with one camera and like I was saying before, I want another video camera, I have one A7 Mark IV and the 28-75 G2 on there, and then I have this Fuji X100V on the other side of my dual harness. And this is also my personal camera. This is what I use for all my family stuff. When I went to America, I took this with me. Just day-to-day stuff. This X100V is my favorite camera by a long shot. In terms of accessories, I do have a JJC hand grip slash tripod plate on there. I also have a Pro Mist 1/8 filter on the front of it, just for a little bit of glow. And I have the JJC thumb grip on the back of it there as well. Just makes it a little bit more comfortable to hold for my large hands. And then, like I said, I'll show you a shot of these other ones. I'm sure you all know what they are, but the Tamron 17 to 28mm, which I'm filming on now. That's a great lens. I really use that mostly for group shots. Sometimes I use it for shots of like the wedding venue and stuff, but yeah, it's not something I use a hell of a lot. I have used it recently for a creative shot at night with flash. I'll throw these up on the screen so you can see it, but yeah, that's probably my least used lens, is the 17 to 28mm from Tamron. And then the 24mm 1.4 G Master, which I'm filming on my A6600 there. That is my old favorite. I've had that one also since the day that came out, and it's the original one I had. I haven't changed it or had to replace it or anything. In fact, I've not had to replace any of these lenses or cameras or anything. I've been really lucky with Sony. I know they're not perfect. No camera brand is, but I personally haven't had any issues, and I'm really stoked with that. So the 24mm G Master is one of my favorites, and I'm actually kind of leaning more towards that now over the 35mm G Master. So quite often in the morning with getting ready, I'll use the 24mm and the 55mm as a combo, and then I'll switch to 35-85 for the ceremony. So yeah, that's one of my old school favorites, and I really love it. The A6600 I really just use for a video camera right at the back of the ceremony. Usually an A7IV on one side pointed at the groom, and then I have my second shooter on a monopod with his camera on the other side. So usually we're running 3 cameras. It's very rare that we run more than that. And I do film in S-Log3 with the A6600. It's not ideal because it's only 8-bit color, but this is all filmed in S-Log3 with it. And it's okay, it's good enough. I probably am going to switch those out as soon as I can justify spending the money, and get a couple of FX3s or something like that, or maybe even a couple extra A7IVs. I do also use this Pro Mist filter. Usually I'm using it at like sunset and anything where I want a little bit of extra effect. It's a 1/8 Pro Mist. I have the collection. They sent them to me for free. They are the Nissi ones, and I really, really like them. I've done a review on those. I'll put a link in the description. But yeah, I'll chuck that on the 24 or the 35 whenever I'm doing like sunset or I want an extra effect. And then lastly, in terms of camera optics and video, I have the DJI Mini 3 Pro. So yeah, it's the one that comes with the extra remote with the screen built in, which is really why I bought it, because I just hate having to use my phone, and this one works really, really well. Has really great image quality, and the video quality is amazing. It's also really small, so I can fit it kind of sideways like that, vertical, into my camera backpack, and just tucks away nicely there. So we're going to go over camera backpacks in the next video, by the way, as well. Right, talking about flashes now, for reception lighting and anything where I want to use a flash. I only have 3 flashes. I have 2 of the AD200s from Godox. These are great. I do have a couple issues with like misfiring and stuff like that, but I think it comes down to the trigger and like interference. I have been tuning them, and it's been working a little bit better. And I also have a Godox V1S for Sony, and they both have the quarter CTO gels on them, same with the AD200s. And then I also use the grates 90% of the time, so just to direct that light like straight to the bridal table. The trigger I'm using, I actually have the X2T trigger here, and I also have the X1 Pro trigger, but I find I have just had so many issues with the X1 Pro trigger. It looks better, it's smaller than this one, but I just get way more misfires with it. So I just haven't been using it at all. I've cast it aside, and I'm now using the X2T trigger solely, so I'm going to pick up another one of these. But I'm really hoping Godox brings out something new with triggers, and yeah, just makes them a little bit more reliable. Like, don't get me wrong, 95% of the time they work great, but when you're at a wedding and you're shooting a reception and they start misfiring, that 5% of the time, it's a problem. And I'm kind of getting sick of it. So yeah, hopefully they do some upgrades there. And the last thing I use for photo and video is this little aperture light that was sent to me quite a while ago, actually. It's an ALMW, and it's just quite a nice little bright LED light, and it just is great for the dance floor if I'm doing video on the dance floor or even photo on the dance floor. This thing has a hot shoe mount on here, and I can just chuck it on top of my camera and get some really cool effects with it. So that's pretty much it in terms of lighting. I do also have two Godox SL60Ws, which are lighting me at the moment for this video, not that one there over in the corner here. And I don't really use those for weddings because you have to plug them in. I'm thinking about buying some battery powered ones, but yeah. Again, I'll update you on that. Now, talking about audio equipment, this is super, super important if you're getting into video. And I've not quite switched up everything how I want it to be, but yeah, mostly we're sorted. So firstly, I have this little Rode Video Micro. This thing's fantastic for like reference audio or just scratch audio if I want like, you know, background audio of people like laughing and talking. This thing's fantastic and it's super, super cheap. So that always comes with me. Secondly, I have the Rode NTG Video Mic, which is right here on this boom arm recording me right now. That thing is fantastic. The audio quality is amazing. I mean, you can probably hear it now. This room isn't perfect, but it's pretty good, and I've got a couple of extra mods to do with it. And then I also have this Zoom H6 audio recorder, which is like my go-to, but I am changing this one out for either a Tascam or an F3, something that does Float 32 recording. But this is great for plugging into the audio system at venues and just coming straight out of the back of speakers. But it's not my only point of audio for ceremonies or speeches. I also have this Zoom F2. So this is a Float 32 lapel mic, which is just great. You don't have to set levels or anything because it's Float 32. You can just put it on your subject. It doesn't matter. You can bring the levels right up or bring them right down. There's no peaking. It's basically foolproof audio as long as you have it positioned right. And yeah, these things are not too expensive and they just work really, really well. I do have some criticisms for them, but I'll go over that in a separate review. And then my favorite add-on is these DJI mics. These things are just fantastic. I love how they work. I love the little case they come in and just everything about them. They're so small. And yeah, they have little magnets on the back of them. You can control them all from the receiver that comes with the unit. And the best bit is I've been sellotaping these little DJI mics to the handheld mics at venues because you can't always plug into them.
And she'd get this venue and she'd get all these wonderful group of friends and family here, so it's just panned out. It's incredible. I can't believe it.
And it's just a really great way to get amazing quality audio from a situation that you might not, you know, it might not be the best situation. And, you know, they're not cheap, but they're also not really, really expensive. The case is fantastic. It's USB-C. It charges the units like heaps of times. I don't think I've charged this case since I've bought them, and I've done probably 15 weddings with these, so I don't know how long that's going to last, but yeah, these things are just great. There's a lot of reviews on them, and in here I just have the case that comes with the like little fluffies that attach to the mics themselves, and that's pretty much it in terms of audio gear. Now in terms of gimbals, this thing is all over the place. This is the Ronin SC2 gimbal that I really truthfully don't use that much, but if I need a gimbal, if I want to use a gimbal, I have one. I just don't really like the look of it, if I'm being totally honest. I like the handheld effect as long as it's not too shaky. But I have used it for a bunch of weddings. I've used it for the intro video of the studio. And yeah, it works really, really well, and it's also pretty affordable for what it is, you know, like DJI makes some pretty good products for reasonable money. And then probably the last and one of my favorites that is a camera I take to weddings is this Olympus MJU2. It's a little film point and shoot. And yeah, I get a lot of wedding clients that really enjoy film. So when they do, I take this with me and I rattle off a couple of rolls as well, and it just looks great. I really love it. It's tiny. I can actually put it in my pocket. It's that small. Yeah, and I just love this thing. So yeah, I do have a couple of other film cameras, but they don't come with me to weddings. The only other thing film related that does come with me to weddings is this Instax wide printer. This thing is my best mate when it comes to my clients. I take this with me, and then when we're sitting down for dinner, I transfer a bunch of photos from my Sonys to my iPhone. I edit them really quickly in Lightroom, and then I print them off, and I give them like 10 prints while they're sitting there eating dinner from their wedding day, and it just blows their mind. You know, quite often they like cry, they're just super happy about it. But you know, they can take something tangible home with them in their hands, and they just love it. Fuji Instax. And that's pretty much it, other than like batteries and audio cables and stuff. You know, I have 8 Sony batteries for all 3 of my cameras, and I've never had to recharge anything during the day. I have a couple of dual battery chargers, and when I get home at night, I just plug them all in, and they're all charged in the morning, ready to go for the next wedding. So yeah, I hope this video has been fun for you guys. I don't know if fun's going to be the right word, but it's overdue, and I'm glad to do it. So I'll see you guys in the next video. We're going to talk about my camera bags.